This is Love Smarter, the show for women who want extraordinary love and aren't afraid to learn for it. Here's your host, Laurie-Anne King.
Well, thank you everyone for joining today. I've got a jam-packed class for us. So I want to just dive right on into it and get going. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me know you can see my slides there. And if you're in the chat, make sure you're sending the chat. There's a little drop down to all panelists and attendees. And that way everyone will be able to see what you're saying. Okay. And I think you should be able to see my slides. Perfect. So we're going to rock and roll. This is the Master Male-Female Communication webinar. So my promise to you today is that you will learn new insights into the inner workings of men and women. You're going to leave with practical tips that you can apply immediately to improve your communication with the opposite sex. So I'm giving you really actionable stuff. And why I'm doing that is so that you can have deeper connections, more intimacy, more love, and more peace in your relationships. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the different motivations for communication because this has a really big impact on how communication often goes wrong with the opposite sex. We're also going to talk about the differences in attention patterns between men and women. And then I'm going to give you some listening tips. I'm going to talk about how to frame conversations and what you're framing for. And then we're also going to talk about the difference between requests and complaints. So this is going to be helpful if you are in a relationship and it's not going well. It's also going to be helpful if you're in a relationship and you want to make sure that it keeps going well. It is going to be helpful if you want a relationship but you aren't finding the one. And if you don't feel understood, heard, or appreciated when you communicate with the opposite sex. It's going to be helpful if you just have to communicate with the opposite sex anywhere in your life, okay? So there's a particular bend to romantic relationships in the conversation that we're going to have today. But no matter where you go, men are men and women are women. So wherever you're interacting with them, this is going to be helpful. Yeah, Sarah, you can invite your husband to this webinar, totally. Tell him to come on board. Because I have some tips for men in here too. So our past participants have said things like, used some of the insights already, mainly the one about shutting up after you ask a guy a question, which we will talk about today. Highly effective, especially in a nerve-wracking romantic context. Yes, not an exaggeration when I say it changed my life. All for the better. I'm excited to improve even more. I love the male-female communication tools and modules. Learning the secrets of communication has been a very empowering lesson for me. The tools you learn are applicable in other parts of your life, like work, friendships, family, day-to-day. Laurie-Anne is so knowledgeable. She really knows her stuff and her approach to the topic, her kind approach to self-exploration. She's the real deal. So that's what people in the past have said. So I want you to get ready for this. Close out any other distractions because I'm going to be moving really fast. Like I said, I probably put too much in this webinar, so I'm going to fly through it. Plan to take notes and then participate in the chat when I'm asking questions. I want you popping your answers in that chat. If you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Laurie-Anne King. It is a pleasure to meet you virtually. I'm a relationship coach and an energy healer. I'm also the founder of Orgasmic Manifesting, and I've led webinars to over 20,000 people now. My background is actually more in the corporate setting. I used to be a management consultant. And as a result of that, I've also taken some of this work back into the corporate world. So I've led workshops on this very topic. The stuff we're about to go through is very similar to the talks that I led at Google, at Harvard, at Bain Consulting. So this is me speaking at Harvard and at Google. And I also want you to know that I myself am in a very happy and fulfilling relationship. And it's very much been a relationship that my husband and I, we've both done the work to create it to be awesome. It wasn't necessarily just going to be awesome without all the personal development and work we've both done on ourselves. And, I just think it's really important to learn from someone who's walking their talk out in the world because energetically, a lot of the value we get is actually through energetic transmission when we're learning from someone. So you want to make sure that people you're following, this is just in general, anytime you're following someone or learning from a teacher, you want to make sure they really have integrity and they're really walking their talk. So my husband and I, we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary, and I can honestly tell you every single year with him has been better than the last. And a lot of it has to do with knowing the tools and the distinctions that I'm going to be teaching you today. So I want you to know that I think you're awesome for being here, because when, I'm assuming you're here because you're interested in improving your communication, right? And it's really easy when things are not working the way we want them to. It is very easy to point the finger at someone or something else, to say it's your fault. It's because you don't listen or because you can't explain yourself, right? It's like someone else's fault. But masters look at themselves and their own performance. And you're here, and so I know you have a commitment to mastery. It's like what they say, when anytime you point a finger over there, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. And people with a growth mindset focus their attention back on themselves, back on what they can do to alter the situation, to improve the situation. And from my work as a relationship coach, I know that the number one thing that is a predictor of a successful long-term relationship is whether or not the people in the relationship have a growth mindset. So I just really acknowledge you for being here and taking the time to get an education on something that we don't normally talk about, right? We're just kind of expected to be good at this already. And I'm going to talk about why a lot of us are not, and that we shouldn't be expected to be good at it, because there's actually a lot to learn. So I want to know, why are you here? Pop into the chat. What do you want to get out of today's conversation? How would having better communication with the opposite sex change your life? So whether this is you're in a relationship and you want to have better communication, or you're struggling to find love and maybe it's a part of your communication, let me know in the chat. What do you actually want to get out of today's conversation? Yeah, Sarah says, I would like to ask better questions. J-Boo, you can't hear me. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? If not, you might want to just try leaving and rejoining. Sometimes that fixes it. Yeah, Trisha says personal growth, understanding people and your employees and wanting to apply this in the workplace. What do you want to get out of this? Jade, authenticity, stepping into truth to bring closer. Yeah, better communication with my future partner and with men and women, says Monica. Good communication in a relationship. Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, and Al says she's having trouble showing up with the people I really care about. And Annie says, I feel like my boyfriend and I frequently miscommunicate what we mean. Yes, that happens a lot. Pat, looking to find a great relationship and want to know how to communicate powerfully from the start. And this will help with my own inner dialogue too. I love that inner dialogue piece. Awesome. Kendi, better communication in the dating world. And Sylvia, getting more confidence. Yeah. Yeah, and also saying freedom of the fear of true intimacy. Communication is very vulnerable. It's beautiful. Awesome. So, yeah, Vera saying, I just started dating again since joining the Orgasmic Manifesting Program and want more tools and treasures to be successful in all relationships. Awesome. Awesome. So, I want to just say, first of all, that this talk comes with a bit of a warning label because it can be really difficult to talk about gender differences. It's a very charged subject, and it is difficult to talk about it for good reason. Because at the time, for a long time, when women have had to fight for their equality and for the opportunities that we have today, what was required in the fight for equality was to claim that not only are women and men equal, but actually, we're all the same. We're all the same. And that's because in the past, our differences were used to oppress us, to limit our opportunities. But this conversation that we're having, it's a next level conversation, okay? This is a conversation that's designed for people who have already achieved respect for both genders. And I am, in this talk, it's meant to empower you and to improve your communication. It's not meant to limit your self-expression in any way, but it can be helpful to look at the communication differences between men and women. We also have to be careful not to stereotype and assume that all men will act a certain way and all women will act another certain way. We are all on a continuum. Now, for the ease of facilitation, I am going to be speaking in generalizations. Okay, so I'm going to say like men will do this and women will do that. Of course, that's not always going to be true. But it's a lot easier to facilitate the class when I speak this way. So that's the warning label that I come with, that this is a next level conversation. It's not meant to limit your self-expression in any way. And so I want you to actually promise me, oh, I think my slides are lagging. Hold on. I want you to promise me that you're going to leave this talk empowered. You're going to take what feels helpful, and anything that doesn't feel helpful or useful, just leave it here. You don't even need to bring it into your life, all right? So pop in that you promise. Let me know you promise to leave here empowered. And if you decline and you want to leave here disempowered, I guess you can tell me that too, but I don't suggest it. Awesome. Okay. Kennedy says, pinky swear it. Absolutely. I promise. Awesome. So why would we even have a talk like this? I always like to think back to the beginning. Why do we even have a talk like this? Humans have been around for 200,000 years, and we've had language for 50,000 of those years. So why do men and women still struggle to communicate with each other? Like, we've had a lot of time, right? Why would we still struggle with this? Well, actually, marriage and the nuclear family as we know it today has only been around for about 200 to 300 years. And for most of human history, men spent most of their time with other men, and women spent most of their time with other women. In terms of an evolutionary perspective and an anthropological perspective, we're actually pretty new at this. We're pretty new at trying to live in partnership, at relating to each other as equals and creating a life and communicating and sharing at the level that we do now with men and women. So what we're going to cover, I think I already went through this, we're talking right now about these motivations for communication. So let's talk a little bit about those first 200,000 years that we've been around and how we used to interact with each other. So in tribal societies, men were typically the providers of protein. And they would be out hunting, meaning they would spend long periods of time alone in silence. Because if you're making sound, you are not a very good hunter. They would also hunt in groups, and the men in the group would be bonded by the shared mission. But even when they were in a group, they were often in silence so they could hear the prey. And then they would bond at the end of the day over the success of the mission and through storytelling. And they might be reviewing the actions of the day and planning the next mission. So one of the takeaways from this is we can see that men learned communication primarily in order to solve a problem. In order to complete a mission, there was something to do, and that's why communication was required. Now, women, on the other hand, I don't know if you can see this picture. It's a group of women standing together. And women in the tribe would usually stay behind with the less mobile members of the tribe, the young, the elderly, the sick. And they didn't have these big hunting missions to bond them to one another. So they actually had to create connection. Because connection was really pivotal to you being a part of the tribe. If the tribe forgets about you or disowns you, that's basically exile. And exile, living out in nature amongst the elements, basically means death. So creating connection became very important to survival. The women would also spend a lot of time around pre-verbal children, and they needed to learn how to detect the difference between a baby crying because it was hungry or crying because it was sick. And we can also see that women spent a lot of time doing activities that didn't take their full focus. They were mundane activities like fetching water or picking berries or weaving baskets. And so part of the thing they did to pass the time was they chatted all day, every day, okay? And what we can see is that women communicated primarily to create and feel connection. So what can we learn from some of these insights? We can see that men spent very little time around pre-verbal children, and women were responsible for children surviving through that pre-verbal phase, which today means women have an increased capacity to detect emotional cues and vocal tonality. We can actually hear differences that men literally can't even hear in the tone that someone's speaking, or to see their emotional. Typically, women have higher emotional quotients, higher emotional intelligence than men do from years and years of training. We can also see that men knew they were safe in their tribe if they could produce results. They had successful hunts. Producing results created a feeling of safety for men. Women knew they were safe in their tribe if they could create emotional connection. So one of the implications today is that women are frequently testing for safety through communication. And we can also see that men spent a lot more time either on their own or in silence while hunting. Meanwhile, women were communicating with each other all day, every day. And as a result, women generally have more advanced communication skills. So when I work with women, or when I work with couples, I'm often giving the woman more coaching on how to alter her communication, not because she's necessarily the one that needs to change her communication, but because she has advanced enough skills, she actually can alter her communication. If we were to just ask men to be able to communicate the way women can, they wouldn't necessarily actually be able to do that. We typically have more advanced communication skills through years and years of evolution and practice. There's some actual brain structures that are different in men and women that allow this. So the ways that this can show up today are that men generally prefer to have really technical conversations, while women typically prefer to discuss topics that create emotions, right? Like my dad can talk literally forever about how to perfect the golf swing. He likes to talk about the actual technicals and the details. Meanwhile, my mother is going to have a much more interesting conversation if she's talking about like relationship dynamics or how someone feels about something. We like to feel the connection as we're talking in the conversation. Men typically want conversation to come to a resolution. Actually want the conversation to have a point. Whereas women see no need for a conversation to go anywhere. Actually, the conversation is the point. It's designed to create connection. Another really common thing that happens in conversation is that a man will start trying to solve someone's problem, solve the woman's problem. And the woman doesn't even realize she's communicating any problems, and we'll talk more about why this happens. And sometimes men just want peace and quiet. Let me know if you've heard that from a man in your life before. It's like, I just need some peace and quiet. And women, we tend to want more communication than men because it's how we know we're safe. And we check for safety very, very often. So let me know, is this enlightening so far? Is this helpful? It's like starting to see some of the reasons why some things you have maybe observed in your relationships have been happening. Because when we don't understand why, we often just think, well, they should be different. They should do it the way I do it. And most women want men to be able to communicate like other women, just like hairy women, but that's not the way that they do. So now we're going to talk about one other thing that is important to understand that is also different, are male-female attention patterns. So remember, men were the hunters. They basically developed more like predators, meaning they've got eyes on the front of their head and they are singular focus. They are one track mind. They are locked into the current task until that current task changes, and then they lock in on the next current task. And they tend to not be very capable at multitasking. If my husband is texting on the phone and I'm talking to him, he literally can't hear me. It's like I shouldn't even say anything because he is locked in on that singular focus. Now, women, on the other hand, we have developed what they call diffuse awareness. So we developed more like prey. Because if you think about it, back in those tribal days when we were left back with the less mobile members of the tribe, we were much more similar to prey than we were to predators. And so we've developed this awareness that's kind of like having eyes on the side of our head and ears that rotate around. We can simultaneously be having a conversation with someone and be aware of the dirty sock that's on the floor and the fact that the phone's ringing. And we can have all of that in our awareness at the same time. So when we expect men to be able to do the same thing, we start to run into some issues in our communication. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about how to actually apply some of these principles that you now understand by taking that little walk down our evolutionary path. So let's start with listening, because I think that if you want to improve your communication, you should work first on improving your listening. And I know that maybe is a little unexpected because often when we think about communication, we think about, well, how can I better be understood? How can I better get my point across? How can I express myself? But when other people truly feel heard, they become much more receptive to hearing you. So if someone in your life is saying the same thing over and over again, it's because they don't yet feel heard. Or if someone in your life starts yelling, it's usually because they don't feel heard. So they get louder for you to hopefully hear them. And I believe actually that listening is one of the most underrated life skills. In my work as a coach, one of the things that I'm really masterful at is actually how I listen. Because both the quality, meaning how you listen, and how often you listen, quantity, matter. How you listen actually influences what is being communicated. That's really important to get. How you listen changes, influences what the other person is willing to communicate. Think about it. If you have had this experience, you've been, hanging out with a friend, and then your friend is on their phone and they're texting the whole time you're trying to talk to them. How good do you feel about that interaction? How much do you want to share with that person? You probably don't keep talking for very long. Or let me know in the chat if you've been in a conversation before and you could just tell, like you had this feeling the other person was being judgmental. You probably stopped sharing pretty quickly or held your cards very close to the vest. You weren't going to share anything vulnerable with that person. Okay, how we listen, it really influences what is being communicated. Yeah, Trisha and Mary saying, we do. We have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, listening twice as much as we speak. I love that. So when we're listening, what most people are doing is rather than listening to what's actually being said, they're listening to their reaction to what someone is saying. So you're listening to your own voice in your head about how you feel about what they're saying, what you think about what they're saying, what you're going to say when they're done talking, rather than listening to what is actually being said. So I'm going to invite you to start listening from 2 places. Start listening, one, from a place of curiosity, like you're really interested in what that person has to say. And 2, start listening from a place of compassion, like just loving them no matter what they say. Okay, because what they say, it doesn't mean anything about you. Often we go straight into like, well, what does this mean about me? And what do I need to do to defend myself or prove myself, or I'm right and they're wrong? No, just be curious and compassionate. Now, we as men and women tend to have default modes of listening, meaning we're listening through a filter. And the male filter is something along the lines of, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? Okay, remember, male communication developed to solve a problem. So they're listening through a filter of, how can I fix this? And when you're listening through a filter of, how can I fix this, what do you see? You see a lot of problems that need fixing. So this is really important to understand about men. Women's default mode of listening tends to be something along the lines of, I agree or I disagree. That's right or that's wrong. And just even check in, see if you're doing that right now. Like, yeah, I agree with that. Or like, no, I don't do that. I disagree, right? It's like right there. We're evaluating whether we agree or disagree with whether something's right or wrong, or that's good or that's bad. So I'm going to start with some listening tips for women. The first one, this is going to be really, really powerful. If you don't take anything away except you start doing this, it's going to change the quality of your relationships. Tolerating silence. So men tend to take longer to process their thoughts into words. And as women, we tend to not leave a lot of silence in conversation because we're conversating in order to create connection. So we want it to keep going and going. So here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Ask a guy 1 question at a time. It might sound really simple, really obvious, but here's what happens in a lot of women's communication. They'll ask a guy a question, and then he's thinking about it. Remember that single focus awareness? So he's really considering their question and coming up with the best answer to that question. But he's taking too long to answer in the woman's perspective. So she thinks he didn't understand the question. So she rephrases it. And now he has gone from this locked-in focus, he's changing to lock in his focus on the new question, and he starts really considering that question. And then he still hasn't answered fast enough for the woman, so now she turns the question into a multiple choice, like, okay, well, do you want to do A, B, or C? And he's having to change his focus every single time to answer the question. Let me know in the chat if you know you've done that before. I definitely know that I have done that before. So what's happening is every time you rephrase the question or change the question, he needs to change his focus and lock in on the new question. So what I want you to try doing instead is ask 1 question at a time, and you're going to wait up to 30 seconds for him to answer. And when you first start, it's going to feel like, okay, is anyone even there? Like, oh my gosh, it's taking so long. So ask one question, wait 30 seconds. And then he'll start to talk. And if he goes quiet, I want you to wait up to another 30 seconds. And he's probably going to start to say even more. So their answers can kind of come out in chunks, like doo-doo-doo, 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 with pauses in between. And when he's done answering, he will actually say some form of, I'm done. Or I think that's it. That's all I have to say. He'll let you know when he's done, okay? And this is really, really powerful. You're going to start to learn a lot more about the men in your life when you're doing this. And one other thing I want to make you aware of is men and women see interruption very differently. So what's really common in communication pattern between two women is we'll do a lot of things to communicate that we're listening. We'll be nodding our head. We'll make little sounds like, oh, yeah. We'll say, oh, me too. That happened to me too. From a man's perspective, watching two women communicate, it would basically look like just a series of interruptions, just interrupting each other one after another. Okay? To a man, remember, single focus, locked in, singular focus. So even these signs of agreement can feel like interruptions to him, and they derail his focus. So you want to actually practice pure silence when you're listening. And it's going to feel, it might feel tense, like you're tolerating that tension because you're not actually sure if you're connected while you're in that silence. But I really invite you to give this an honest try, okay? The next listening tip for women is what I call listen to learn about them. Because men tend to communicate their values through their opinions and through their stories. So when they tell you a story or when they're giving you their opinion, and you might not even want their opinion in that moment, or you're not sure why they're telling this story or why they're telling this story for the 5th time, they're actually communicating their values to you. And they're sharing who they are with you through saying that. So they don't care whether you agree with their values or not. Right? That's who they are. And if we're listening through that filter of that's good or that's bad, or I agree or I disagree, and so you start to give your opinion on their story, it usually doesn't go very well because they're communicating who they are, and that's just who they are. And so your opinion on who they are isn't all that important to them. And another thing to understand is them bothering even just to tell you that story or to tell you that opinion, it's actually a demonstration that they care. And that they believe that you are worth their while. That's why they're bothering to even tell the story. When I really understood this, I just got a whole new relationship with my dad. I got a whole new relationship with my dad because before that, I used to always feel like, well, why is he lecturing me? Or why is he telling me this? Does he think I don't know better? Or does he think I don't know this? No, it's actually a way he's communicating his love for me. And it's a way that I can really learn about him and what's are important to him. So based on the story he's sharing, I can start to see what he really values and what he really thinks is important. Yeah, Leah says, can you still nod? So going back to the listening for women, you can still nod, but you want to know that men will most likely interpret your nod not to mean that you are just listening, but to mean that you actually agree with what they're saying. So you just want to make sure you're not nodding if you don't agree with what you're saying. I've had that happen before. Yeah, Annie says, mind blown. And Jade says, I so can relate to that. So you're really listening to learn. Again, listening with that filter of curiosity and compassion. Okay, so some listening tips for men. I don't think we have a lot of men on this webinar, so I'm going to kind of fly through it. But if you have a partner, you can either share the replay with them or just teach them these tips. So again, men are listening to solve a problem. And so as women, we're communicating to create connection, which means we want to share about our day, or we want to share about what's happening, or we want to share our emotions. It's really tiring for men if they relate to everything that the woman's sharing as a problem that they need to fix. So what I suggest men do is listen to women the same way you would watch a superhero movie. Meaning you give them your full attention. You are totally present. You are totally engaged in the story, but you don't have to solve anything. You are just watching the story unfold. Women actually know how to solve their own problems. And if they want your support in solving it, they'll ask for your support. So how you can let her know that you're listening and how you can stay engaged in that conversation is do what I call cheer for the hero and boo for the villain. Okay, and usually they will be the hero of the story, and the villain will be either the problem they're talking about, a coworker, the situation, or an actual person. Okay, cheer for the hero and boo for the villain. Another tip that's really helpful for men is what to do when women are experiencing a lot of different emotions in conversation. So again, historically, men didn't communicate a lot with women. They spent most of their time in communication with other men and actually communicating very rarely. It's actually it's more difficult for men to actually process emotions in their body. Emotions tend to stay in their body longer, and there's a lot less social conditioning where it's socially acceptable to even discuss their emotions. They have a lot less practice at this, and men can get really uncomfortable when women are experiencing emotions, especially if they think they have to solve them. So what I suggest is you actually just marvel at the weather. Relate to a woman and as she's going through her different emotional states, because we can go through a lot of emotions in a very little amount of time, as if you're just watching the weather change. Okay, don't view their emotions as a problem that you need to solve. Just the process of actually expressing them to you and feeling them is part of the solving process. So just marvel at the weather changing. Like, oh, look, she's sunny. Oh no, she's raining. Oh no, that's a big storm coming in. Okay, we got a storm. All right. Oh, she's sunny again, right? You're just being there and witnessing and holding that space for her. And that's going to make it really a lot faster actually for her to process and solve her own problems. Okay, is this helpful so far? Are you learning useful stuff that you can see like, yep, I can just go apply that right away? Yeah, Lisa's saying, oh my gosh, my husband already does this. Awesome. Okay, I also want to talk about framing conversations. So framing conversations is a very proactive thing to do, and it helps your conversation be set up for success, right? It's like framing a house. You wouldn't just put your furniture in the house if the house hadn't properly been framed, if the foundation wasn't there and the layout for what was about to happen wasn't there. Builders would have no idea where to put the furniture or what goes where. You know, we need to actually frame it. So remember that we have these different attention patterns and we have these different motivations for communication. So when I advise women on how to frame conversations, I'm helping you frame to proactively deal with a couple things. One, proactively deal with the fact that men have single focus awareness. Two, that they have a tendency to hear and solve problems. And three, to try to prevent defensiveness. Yeah, Svenja is saying, I have to laugh because I can relate to this so much. I know, it's stuff that it's really obvious once you start to see it, but we've never been taught what to do and how to actually work with these distinctions. But most people, I get that reaction all the time. They're like, oh, this is so obvious. Yes, this is totally my life. Okay, so here are some examples of framing you can use for conversations. Is now a good time to talk? Actually, just make sure he's available for the conversation. And we have diffuse awareness. We can handle a lot of things at once, but he's going to be doing one thing at a time. So if he's already focused on one thing, you want to make sure he can actually give you the full attention for the conversation. And if it's not a good time to talk, you can ask, when can I have your undivided attention? Make it really clear that what you want is his full focus, and when can you have it? You can also proactively let him know he doesn't need to fix your problem. Like, I've had a hard day. I would love to share it with you. I don't need you to try to fix anything. I'm pretty sure that just saying it out loud will make me feel better. This really helps men. They feel really uncomfortable in conversations where they don't know what they're supposed to be doing in the conversation because they think they need to fix it. So let them know, hey, I just need you to listen, and then I'm going to feel better. So that also lets them know this conversation will come to a resolution. The last one might sound a little funny, but you also want to let men know that they're not in trouble, but you'd like to talk about how you can avoid something next time. Because think about a male experience growing up. Little boys, they're often their primary authority figure is their mother, right? They spend most time with their mother. And then when they actually go to school, most elementary school teachers, especially at the younger age, kindergarten teachers, etc., tend to be female as well. So they've really learned kind of a confusing way of relating to women, to both respect, fear, and be attracted to them. So sometimes when a man feels like he's in trouble, he kind of can go into his little boy mode, and he starts relating to you like a mother or relating to you like a teacher, and like he needs to avoid getting out of trouble. So actually just letting him know, hey, you're not in trouble. There's no trouble here, but I want to talk about how we can do this. There's nothing wrong, but let's make sure this doesn't happen again. And now you can have a conversation where he's not getting defensive. Some framing tips for men. So you're using framing to proactively deal with the fact that a woman has diffuse awareness, that she has this tendency to interrupt, and that a woman's desire, she's really desiring to feel safe through communication. And she's going to be probably desiring even more communication than you are. So I like this one. Like my husband will say, hey, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, but I'm tired and I'm having trouble focusing right now. I think if I had half an hour to unwind first, then I would be able to give you my full attention. Can we talk in half an hour? Okay, so here you're letting her know what your experience is so she feels connected to you. You're proactively suggesting what you need so that you can give her exactly what she wants, and then you're scheduling an actual time to do it. Okay, let me know in the chat if you're a woman, you're like, yes, I would feel totally heard and safe if my husband was saying this, or my partner or someone I'm dating. Another great one for men is to say, I want to tell you something that is difficult for me to say. Would you be willing to listen and not say anything until I'm done? Right? So you can actually create the space so you're not going to get derailed from your focus if you're saying something that feels really hard to say. And then you can also ask, if you're not sure where to stand in a relationship, you can say, would you like me to try to help you solve this, or are you looking for me to just listen and support you? Actually find out, what are they looking for from you? Okay. All right, awesome. We're doing great. We're flying through it. I got one more I really want to get through. So I also want to talk to you about the power of requests versus complaints. So men and women tend to view complaints very differently. Much of what men view as a complaint, a woman might view as just stating a fact or just speaking her mind. And remember, men listen through the filter of how can I fix this? So they hear a lot of problems. In particular, past-based complaints, so complaining about something that's already happened, that's particularly problematic because it lives for a man like an unsolvable problem. Like it's already happened, it's over, he can't do anything about it. And so he might even feel like he's failing you. And so when it's a woman that a man really cares about making happy, like if you're the primary woman in his life, he actually takes a lot of his personal satisfaction out of how happy he makes you. And so if you're complaining about something, it can actually live for him like a personal failure. And men don't like to feel failure. So that can sometimes then be turned around into resentment towards you. Instead of feeling like a failure, he's going to feel resentful towards you. And to a man, women who complain a lot equal a lot of work. Okay? It's like, oh, that's a lot of work. So here's the pro tip. I want you to pivot your complaints into requests. And the really pro tip is if it's a big request, share what it'll provide for you. Because remember, men are providers. Providers of the protein. From way back, they like to provide. So they want to know, okay, you want me to take the garbage out? Well, why? Like, why can't you take the garbage out? If you were to say something like, hey, when you take the garbage out, it makes me feel like I'm the queen of this castle, and then I don't have to deal with the smelliness, and like it makes me upset for half an hour. It would really provide me a feeling of freedom if you would actually just do that. You know, he's going to be a lot more excited about taking the garbage out when you explain it that way versus like, hey, you didn't take the garbage out again. Okay. One of the reasons that, so here's just like some really easy examples of how to turn what a man would hear as a complaint into a request. Like, it's cold in here. I know I'm guilty of this one. I was like, it's cold in here. Be like, oh, I should actually ask him to do something about that, or go do something about it myself. Like, honey, could you please turn up the heat? Or, oh, you were supposed to pick up the milk. Well, just ask him to go get it now, right? I'm hungry. Oh, better said, can we pull over to get a bite to eat now? Right? Actually framing it as a request so it's really obvious and easy to him what he needs to do to solve the problem. One of the reasons women don't make requests is because, remember, primary reason women are communicating is to create connection. And making a request comes with the risk that it feels like the connection could be broken. If someone says no, it might break the connection. So you want to remember that a no doesn't necessarily break the connection. A no just means no. And so a lot of women often hesitate or don't even know what they want. And instead they're wondering like, oh, what will they think of me if I ask for that? So I want you to just practice making requests more often and to know that a no, it just means a no. It's a no to your request, right? It's not about you. It's not about how he feels about you. It just means no to that request. Now, if you're going to start making more requests, which I really invite you to do, you also need to up the level of appreciation. Okay, appreciation is like gas in the car. It is the fuel. It's what gives you the power to move. So you really want to appreciate your partner whenever they're honoring your request or even just considering your request. Okay? You want to give twice as much appreciation for every request that you're giving. So appreciate before the request, appreciate something they've already done that's great, make the request, and then appreciate them again. And there's slightly different ways that men and women like to be appreciated typically. So men like to be specifically appreciated for what they did, the actual action that they took, and then for the result that it produced. So let them know like, hey, I so appreciate you going back out to the store to grab the milk. That is going to make this dinner delicious, I promise, right? It's like, really clear, here's what they did and here's the result that they produced, the impact that they had. Women, on the other hand, we love to be appreciated for what we've overcome, like what it took to accomplish something, and then for who we are, right? For a man to say like, oh, you're so generous and compassionate, and that is going to feel really gratifying most often. And I used to do this wrong all the time. Like I would be saying to my husband, like, oh, I love you, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be like, okay. Like it didn't even land for him. But when I started to appreciate the actual things he was doing on a day-to-day basis, that felt a lot more rewarding to him. Okay, so what we have covered today, I really flew through that. We have talked about male-female motivations for communication. We've talked about male-female attention patterns. I've given you some listening tips, some tips on how to frame conversations proactively. We talked about the difference between requests and complaints, and we've talked about how to appreciate men and women. So you have a lot of tools that you can go off and play with on your own now, right? That's a lot to get started with. And I hope that this has been valuable. Let me know in the chat if this has been valuable. If you're like, yes, I've got stuff I can go take action with right now. And yeah, Annie's saying, I realize my boyfriend and I actually have kind of reverse roles in a couple of areas. And that can happen too. Remember, I said we're all on a continuum. It's just helpful to understand where the other person is coming from. Okay, awesome. I'm glad to hear it's valuable. So if you really like this kind of learning and you want to learn more about this, then I also have an invitation for you. Because I'm really big on using your romantic relationships as a vehicle for personal growth. I think it's one of the most amazing areas that we can use relationship as personal growth. And I also think that we are not properly educated around romantic relationship. You know, one of the reasons I got into relationship coaching is when I got engaged and I really started to see how like the state of marriage around me, how relationships went, it was not very inspiring. It was like, wow, the best case scenario is that we stick it out together. Like that we don't get divorced is a sign of a successful marriage in our culture. And that's just so much lower than what I'm actually aiming for. Like I really want a thriving relationship. I want a relationship that is the source of energy in my life and is my safe haven and not a drain of energy and not something that, you know, I put up with or I'm sticking through. I want it to be like the best thing in my life. And so I got obsessed with learning about how you create a fantastic relationship. And this is actually the very first course I even created. So if you're in my orgasmic manifesting system, this is something I created even before that. This is called Claim Your Queendom. And it's a 6-week course, and I'm teaching relationship as a spiritual practice. And so there's 3 main intentions in this course. The first one is to help you embody your queen energy. Embodying your queen energy. And so let me tell you a little bit about what this means. Okay, queen energy is like different from princess energy. You know, I think growing up, at least I was taught a lot of fairy tales. Like, I want to be swept off my feet. I want to be a princess. Like, no, I actually want to be a queen. So queen energy is very heart-centered. It's very wise. It's loving and compassionate. It's very grounded. And you have full permission to be yourself. This is someone who is capable of being with a king. Queens create kings, okay? Men don't often go from prince to king without meeting a queen along the way, okay? So that's one of the things. Actually embody and own and live from your queen energy. A second intention is to become a man whisperer. And this sounds a little cheesy, but I say it this way for a very specific reason. I'm teaching really practical tools and distinctions in the ways that men and women work differently. So you can actually start to use those differences to get better results. And I think about the difference between a horse trainer and a horse whisperer. A horse trainer is someone who can like whip the horse and get the horse to comply to its will. And we see that in a lot of relationships, like women who, you know, are wearing the pants in the relationship or who nag their husbands to get them to do what they want. The horse trainer, on the other hand, speaks straight to the soul of the horse, speaks straight to the heart of the horse. And the difference between the horse trainer and the horse whisperer is that the horse trainer can only get the horse to do what it wants for so long, can only push it so hard before the horse rebels, before the horse bucks the trainer off. The horse whisperer, on the other hand, that horse will literally run until its heart explodes rather than disappoint the horse trainer. And I just got chills as I said that, actually, because I respect and honor men so much. I think about, you know, all the years of men running into battle to protect their women or protect their children. They are the ones who will fight and protect and provide. And I love and I honor that. And so I have been really committed to actually learning, how do I call that forth? How do I call that forth, that part of my partner forth, so that he is living from there? And really amazing things have happened in my relationship with my husband since we got together. You know, things like, since we met, he's tripled his income. He's quit doing a lot of negative habits. He's totally transformed his health. And these weren't things that I asked him to do or I nagged him into doing. The things that he's been inspired to do, because queens inspire. So that's one of the intentions of the course as well. And the third intention is that you actually create the relationship of your dreams. Relationship satisfaction is the highest indicator of overall life satisfaction. And like I shared, I created this course because I didn't like what an ordinary future in a long-term relationship looked like. I'm interested in an extraordinary relationship, in a thriving relationship. And I know that those need to be created proactively and that you need maintenance for that relationship as well. Yeah, Sarah says, I just love this so much. Marta says, this is marvelous. Okay, good. I'm glad this is resonating. So let me quickly tell you what's in the course. Okay, you're going to receive 6 video training modules. These are each an hour. There's a lot of content. So you just got a sampling of what's in there. Okay, imagine 6 hours of this and what you might know that you don't already know now. We start off the course by you designing your dream relationship. So first, you're going to actually assess, where are you in your romantic life? If you're not in a relationship, there's a couple different places you could be. If you're in a relationship, where's your relationship currently standing? And then you're going to get crystal clear on the relationship of your dreams and what is preventing you from having that now. I'm going to teach you a really powerful process to rewrite your past so that you are fully free to create what you want right now. And I'm going to teach you how to free yourself from judgments that are limiting your experience of joy. Then in module 2, it's called Quit Overthinking Now. You are going to learn how to actually quiet your overactive mind so you can learn how to get out of your head and access your intuition instead, because queens live and trust their intuition. They live from their intuition. So to do this, you're going to discover what and how to detect the 3 different voices we hear in our head, and then you'll know which one to listen to at what time. So if you've ever had like conflicting thoughts and you don't know what to do, that's a problem I'm going to eliminate for you. You're also going to learn 4 proven steps to end overthinking and get yourself present, even when you feel really hung up on something. So if you have a tendency to, I forget the word, ruminate, mull over something over and over and over again, think about all the different problems and all the different ways it could go. That's what this module is about, is getting freedom from that, so you can actually access your intuition and make choices from there. Ruminate, that's it, yeah. In module 3, you're going to learn the foundations of attraction. So you're going to understand exactly what attraction is and actually why it's critical to the health of your relationship. We often think about attraction as being something really important to start a relationship, but I think it's a very important indicator of the health of your long-term relationship. Then you're going to learn the differences between physical and energetic attraction. And that's a really powerful, powerful distinction. We're going to talk about different masculine and feminine energetic dynamics in relationships. And you're going to learn ways to enhance your femininity and how to naturally call forth your partner's masculinity. When I say that my husband has transformed in all these really incredible ways, I actually think this piece has been one of the most important ways, is I've helped him naturally get more into his masculine energy. And so he's showing up as a more masculine male, someone who's like more providing, he's taking life more seriously, he's more active and out there in the world. The 4th module is Master Male-Female Communication. So you got a sampling of that module today. You're going to learn the different reasons men and women communicate, how to more effectively listen to men, how to speak to get the kind of attention that you want from men, and how to inspire men through your communication. Module 5 is Know, Ask, Receive. This is a life-changing module, okay? You're going to learn the 4 steps to getting what you want from men. You're going to discover what stops you specifically from asking for what you want. And asking for what you want is very critical to being satisfied in a long-term relationship. You're going to learn that missing ingredient that inspires men to provide, to show up and deliver for you. And you're going to learn the secrets to asking for and actually receiving what you want from men. And I teach a really simple formula for how to ask for exactly what you want. And it's incredible. It's really, really amazing. People love this module. The last module in the course is Radical Self-Love. So you're going to learn what that is. You're going to learn how to identify and prioritize your own values so that you're creating a life that you naturally feel nurtured by. You're living a life that's aligned to what you value. You're creating a relationship that's aligned to what you value. You're also going to learn what your dark values are and how to identify yours. And then you're going to start to lean into those dark values to get accelerated results in your life, because there is a lot of power in the things that we have been hiding or avoiding. So you're going to learn how to actually expose those and lean into them. So those training modules have a value of $497. If you actually go to my site, the Teachable site right now, you can buy this course for $497. I'm going to offer you something sweeter because this is the first time I'm doing a webinar for this in a long time. And this course is very near and dear to my heart as one of the first really powerful courses I created. So I'm also going to give you access to a private Facebook group so you can be connected to a community of other women who are also committed to creating really amazing relationships for themselves, embodying their queen energy. And this is a really supportive group. It's really positive and uplifting of people, giving support that's coming from a really positive place. It's not like people getting together to vent or complain or, put their partners down. It's very proactive and positive. That has a value of $97. I'm also going to give you a bonus today, a trio of feminine meditations. So there's a womb space meditation, a pleasure meditation, and a loving kindness meditation to help shift you into that queen energy. And these have a value of $47. Last part, I'm going to give you a bonus to very powerful recorded energetic healings that you can listen to over and over again. Women who are in my Orgasmic Manifesting course, they know how powerful these healings are. And so you can listen to these recordings and you will actually get a new healing every single time. You can see some of the posts in the group saying, has anyone felt benefit from the recordings? Yes, just replayed last week's, worth watching, definitely still has power. Yes, I listen to the replays. I get more and more each time. They are amazing and healing. I felt the power even though I watched 3 days later. There's a lot of power in these healings. They're going to really accelerate your results in clearing any blocks that are in your way of having this kind of relationship right now. Those have a value of $597. So everything I put together is a total value of $1,238. And I'm giving you the deal of all deals today. You can have access to everything for $297. Okay, I've made this super available to people. Head to laking.tv/queendom if it's something that you would like to do. And I'll give you a little more information. So I think this course is for you if you're in a couple of different places. If you're not in a romantic relationship, but you want to be. If you're not in a relationship and you don't want one, don't buy this course, okay? If you are in a good relationship, but you know it could be better, or if you want to make sure that your relationship stays amazing. If you don't feel heard or understood in your relationship, if you don't feel appreciated in your relationship, if you even feel resentful and resigned about your relationship, this course is going to be really helpful. If you tend to lose yourself when dating or in a relationship, or if you focus more on what they think than on what you want, this course is going to be really helpful. And this course is not for you if you are not interested in finding love or improving your current romantic relationship. If you are not willing to look at the role you've had in creating your current conditions, right? This is a spiritual practice. It's an opportunity for growth for you. If you're not willing to take responsibility to get your power back, if you're not willing to try new approaches or use new tools, and if you're not willing to do the videos or the assignments, then it's probably not for you. So everything I've said is available for $297, and for being here today, I have created an extra special coupon code for you. You can go to the same link. Rita, my assistant, she just popped it in the chat, laking.tv/queendom. Use the coupon code LiveQueen while the webinar is still running, and you'll save an additional $47, bringing your total cost down to $250. So that's the 6 video training modules. Every module comes with a workbook and exercises. I call it throne work instead of homework. I know, very clever. And then you'll also get access to the private Facebook community, the bonus energetic recorded healings, and the bonus 3 feminine meditations, all for $250 when you use the coupon code LiveQueen. And you can head to laking.tv/queendom. So you should see that link in the chat. You might also see that pop up on the banner on the right side or below the video. And just pop on that. Yes, Patricia, it includes a module on male and female communication. And Sarah says, is it possible to start after finishing the course? Yeah, totally. So this course is totally self-paced. You can start it whenever you want to start it. You'll have lifetime access to the videos. And so if you want to purchase it at this introductory price of $250, I would suggest doing that now. And then you can absolutely start it when you're completed with the orgasmic manifesting system if you're in that program as well. Okay, I'll give you a couple of case studies, and if you have questions, keep popping them in the chat there. So here's one of my past clients, Mia. Mia says, I joined the course because my husband and I had just gotten married and we didn't have the spark that we had at the beginning of our relationship. We definitely loved each other and had a great friendship, but we were missing some passion. I wanted more juiciness and excitement in the relationship. Since taking the course, I am really into my husband and he is really into me. There is a lot of electricity between us. We are excited about everything we are creating together. I love the video modules and the meditations. They make a huge difference. The course isn't too much work and the learnings can be applied right away without effort. An added bonus is that I feel more relaxed at work because now I trust the men at my work. Chloe, my darling Chloe, she says that she joined the course because despite doing a lot of transformational work, I still had deep anxiety about relationships not working out. So Chloe was single and had been single for a long time when she signed up for the course. So though I was actively dating, underneath that activity, I was resigned and cynical about my romantic future. My greatest fear about joining the course was that it would be like all the other courses I had taken around relationship. I would do the work, but not get results, and I would end up just as disappointed as I was when I started, or even more. Instead, I found so much joy in participating and felt super supported as I went about dating. I released a lot of stuck old emotions, and through the engagement with the coursework, I was able to work through past disappointments and get to a place where I was able to create a new vision for my relationship. When I think about my past relationships, I am at peace now. I have new communication skills and other practical tools that make interacting with men a lot more fun and empowering. After dating a few men last fall and having the support of the Queendom throughout the process, I now have a new boyfriend. Meeting him and starting a relationship was easy. Okay, Patricia says she's having trouble applying the coupon code. Try again, Patricia, and if it doesn't work, just purchase it as it is. And okay, Sarah, you tell me what's not working either. Yeah. So if the coupon code's not working, just purchase it as it is and then send an email to admin@Laurie-Anne King, and we'll refund the difference. So, but the coupon code should work. Fingers crossed. I hope it works for you. Awesome, Leah. Welcome. Yes, that's great. Okay, I'll tell you a bit more. Let me know if you have any questions too as I'm going through some of these case studies. So Ellie says, before I joined the course, I was feeling very confused and unable to understand some of my patterns, which made it impossible for me to adjust them. I was always very needy and insecure in a relationship. I would run after a guy without even knowing whether he is the guy I want or whether he is good for me or not. I made horrible choices for myself in terms of relationship. In my last relationship, I totally lost myself and I didn't want that to happen again. Now I am more present with what I really feel and feel capable to stop going out with a guy who's no good for me. I am not scared to go for and ask for what I want. Before I signed up, I couldn't imagine even remotely the power of this program. The video modules have the power to explain in an easy way very complicated feelings. I would recommend this course to anybody, even if they have a great and happy relationship. It's not just about love life, but this program leads to a personal growth as an individual also. You will learn things about yourself which you are not even aware of. Yeah, I'm just checking in with the chat. Okay, yes, Pat, you can absolutely do this program while you're doing the Orgasmic Manifesting course as well. And if you want to, do one first and do the other one later, that's fine too. Okay, Sarah says having trouble downloading the page. Let me just test one thing really quick here. Sarah, I'll pull it up. In the meantime, you can read Michelle's beautiful testimonial here. Let's see. I'm just checking it on my end. I think it's working for me, Sarah. Yeah, it should work. You can try this one as well here, Sarah. It might be your internet. But if you're, able to join the webinar, your internet should be working. So you can see if that link works for you. Okay, Michelle says, I'd become increasingly frustrated with my inability to clearly communicate my desires, wants, and goals with men. It was affecting my confidence and my ability to trust myself in making important decisions. I was easily getting derailed by needless drama and losing countless hours of valuable work, time, and creative energy. The hit to my confidence was also impacting my confidence in my work, meaning I was hiding out and not putting my ideas out there in the way I knew I could. I was finally able to release the drama and get on the same page with my partner for common goals. I also learned how to quickly discern between the reactive parts of myself and my true inner compass so that I could make more empowered decisions. Laurie-Anne taught me specific ways to communicate and make requests, and as a result, I'm getting so much more of what I truly want. Everything flows so much better. Pat, if you sign up for this after you finish Orgasmic Manifesting, you will be able to get it probably for the $297 price, not for the coupon code. The coupon code is only for people who actually purchase while the webinar is still live. And it'll be live for another like 15 minutes maybe as I'm, hanging out to answer anybody's questions. Okay. Tia talks about, before her relationship, she was lacking a grounded, confident place to speak from. And as a result, she would feel really bad about what she said, or she'd apologize because she was always feeling off center, which left her feeling like a victim. She said she almost didn't sign up because I was worried that I would behave and communicate better, but my partner wouldn't. I was very concerned he would get away with more because if I took responsibility for myself, who would make sure that my partner did the same for me? But just the opposite happened. I became happier and more content, and so did my partner. It gave me a lot of confidence to be myself and receive more love. My partner and I are more intimate, open, and happy together. I feel at peace even when I'm having a tough day. I let stresses go more quickly and easily in every area of my life, not just my romantic life. Awesome. Okay, and Elin also says great things. I feel like I've maybe put too many testimonials in here. When I signed up for the course, I had just gotten to a new relationship after a year-long hiatus in dating. I had several horrible breakups and was having doubts about my existing relationship. I was also at a bad place at work, so it was a pretty turbulent time filled with exhaustion and anxiety. Through what I learned in the course, I now have a great relationship with my boyfriend. In fact, we just moved in together. We fully trust each other, and it's been the most fulfilling relationship in my life. I also quit my job and am transitioning to a new job. Most importantly, I have a completely different way of thinking about myself, one that is filled with confidence, optimism, and a true belief that I am the master of my own destiny. In addition, my relationship with my friends also changed. I was able to forge better relationships and allow our connections to be closer. This is not a generic program that makes me the person I should be, but taught me to embrace the person I already am. It is the best investment you will make in yourself. So the course comes also with a 7-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee. So if you purchase the course and decide it's not a fit for you, just shoot us an email within 7 days and we'll refund you, no problem. And I want you to know that 5% of profits at my company are donated to a couple different places, but one of the major places I donate is Kiva. Kiva is a micro lending company that gives loans to people all over the world who would never have access to traditional financing to help them start a business or go to school or take care of their family. And so I donate most of that money to women around the world. And what's beautiful about this program is that it's a micro loan without charging interest, but people will pay back their loan with profits from the business they started or the career they changed. And then that money gets reinvested in someone else. So I'm able to help a lot of people, and it's a gift that keeps on going. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions. The link to purchase is that laking.tv/queendom. And I brainstormed a couple questions you might have. If you have any, pop them in the chat. Okay, what's going to happen when I register? So once you register, you will automatically be registered. So Pat, it should be available to you very quickly, certainly within 24 hours, if not like basically instantly. So it will show up in your Teachable account if you already have an account. And if not, you will get an email from Teachable that an account has been created for you. And then you'll have access to the course in there. Egalina, the coupon code is Live Queen, right? Live Queen or Live Queendom? Shoot, I wish I remembered. I think it's Live Queen. Rita, can you double check that for me? Yeah, it should be Live Queen. Okay. And yeah, so once you register, you'll get access instantly, and you'll have lifetime access. It's a course that you're buying, so it's a product that you own. And then there will be instructions on how to request to join the Facebook group, and all of the bonuses will be in there for you. How much time does it take? So I typically suggest, whoa, yay, Sarah. She says, my husband is buying this for me right now. Amazing manifesting. Congrats. It's awesome. He's going to be really happy that you took this course, by the way. I suggest doing one module a week so that you can really integrate and practice the materials. So I'd say plan to do this over 6 weeks. Sometimes people will binge watch it and then they end up going back to the module. So you can do it however works for you. And each module is about an hour, and I would say the exercises also take an hour. So bank on about 2 hours a week. What if I don't finish the course in time? So you have lifetime access to it. If you don't finish it in that first 6 weeks that I suggest, that's fine. You have lots of time to do it. It is the kind of course that people will come back to. I've heard this a lot, like, oh, you know, I came back to the course 3 months later, and it's like, wow, I couldn't even remember learning that the first time. There's so much content in there. Or now I understand it at a whole new level because I've been practicing and applying it. So it's something that you'll probably work with for a while. Yay. Okay, another Sarah is in. Awesome. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. I don't have a partner. Can I still take this course? Yes, absolutely. You can. And it's really focused on yourself. So there are tools and distinctions that you're going to learn about interacting with men or interacting with potential partners. And then when you are in a relationship, there's even more stuff that's going to be really helpful. But a lot of the course is focused on yourself, on accessing your intuition, on accessing your queen energy, staying centered, your femininity. So there's a lot for you to do on your own. Awesome. Okay, great, Lisa. And yay, Egalina. Yes, Viero, I have done some training with Pax and with David Data. Love those, both of the Allison Armstrong and David Data, really amazing mentors in the space. Yeah. Can men take this program? So you can share the program with your partner if you want. I am totally open to that. In particular, the communication module is going to be helpful for him to see, and probably also when we're talking about masculine and feminine essence. And this program can create really juicy conversations in your relationship as you're starting to learn similar tools and distinctions. And I've had partners go through the course. It's definitely angled for women, right? Getting into that queen energy, but there's a lot of the tools and a lot of the practices, like creating a relationship vision, for example, that you can do and you can have your partner do as well. And then you can compare notes and see where are you aligned and where do you maybe want different things and what are you going to do about that. It's really powerful. Refund policy is 7 days, no questions asked. So if it's not the right fit for you, just let us know within that first 7 days. Okay, any other questions? So I'll come back on the screen. Hi, everybody. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'm happy to answer them if you do. I'm just going to scroll up in the chat to see if I missed anything. Okay, great. Egalina says the code worked. So that code was Live Queen, right? And the course will be available pretty much instantly. I can kind of maybe even show you here. Let's see. Yes, thanks, Rita, for that. Also, if you have any questions that you don't think of now that comes up after, then you can send an email to admin@laurie-anneking.com. Pat, there's no live support in this program. So it's a self-paced video program. There will be support through the Facebook group, but there's no live calls in this program. Yeah, if I ever do a live round of it, I will let you know. Cool. Okay, so Pat says, since I'm not in a relationship and I live and work alone from home, I don't have much opportunity to practice what I learn unless dogs count. Probably not for the communication piece, although there's some ways that are similar. What I would probably guess, Pat, is if you want to be in a relationship, there's probably some new habits and new behaviors you're going to need to develop so that you're actually interacting and meeting more potential partners, right? Because I can imagine if you both live and work at home, you don't just bump into a lot of available suitors. So it's stuff that you would practice on dates or when you're going out with the intention of meeting potential partners. Yeah, and it might take something to kind of encourage and push yourself to do that if you want to really find that relationship. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? If not, we can wrap up and everyone can get on with it. But I'll hang out for just another second. Yeah, working on finding networking groups. That would be a really good place to practice, actually, especially the, asking one question at a time and just listening. And okay, so I think you can see my screen here, right? So you should get your email from Teachable very soon. If you don't have it within 24 hours, send an email to that admin group, and then you'll get access to the Claim Your Queendom course. So you can see it's normally for sale for $497. For being here, given this hour to your education, I know you're really committed. So I want people to have access to that. So I think well, maybe I can't show you inside the course right now because it looks like I'm not registered for it. But it will be great. Trust me on that. And if it's not, in the first 7 days, just email us and we'll make it right for you. So awesome owls, welcome. I am excited to welcome all of you into it who are participating. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for loving my stuff. And I'm excited to see you all in the group and to see how the course unfolds for you. Send an email if you have any questions. Thank you for joining today and being here with us. And I look forward to the next time I'll see you. Much love, everyone. Much love. Okay, bye, Sarah. Bye, Kristen. Bye, Viero. Bye, Als.